Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Spring 2020 Social Entrepreneurship for Innovation in Health course. As you're aware, the course overview says Module 4 and 5 for this week and next week that talks about co-creation. And you will have the opportunity to review real-world case studies and proposals spearheaded by health innovators. This week, we are going to talk about leveraging shared values. Before we jump into the session today with our guest expert, please don't forget to take the survey if you're watching us live. You get extra points to watch us live. Also, don't forget to drop your questions in the discussion forum so that we can bring that to our guest experts and get you answers. I'm delighted to welcome today Peter Awin, our guest expert and founder of CowTribe. CowTribe is the case study that many of you would have already seen for this week's module. Before we actually get into knowing more about what CowTribe does and the process of co-creation that they have followed, I would like to actually talk a little bit about Peter. Peter is a social entrepreneur. He is a management practitioner. He was raised in North Ghana in a family of animal rearers, and very interesting journey he has had. So Peter, do you want to talk a little bit about your journey as a social entrepreneur?
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you once again for inviting me for this session. Yeah, so briefly about me, my job now is the CEO and co-founder of CowTribe. As you did mention, CowTribe is a social enterprise. We are based in Ghana. We work with smallholder farmers across Ghana to support them with access to animal health inputs. We have been working for the past 3 years or so. We started in 2017. We mostly work with smallholder farmers in about 6 districts in Ghana. Our main mission is to ensure that farmers who depend on livestock for a livelihood have access to the vaccines that will keep those livestock alive until they are eaten or sold. So this is really something that we are committed to doing. And it's been a tough journey, but yeah, we are still on it.
So Peter, I mean, you studied management, right? So how did you cross over? I mean, did you work as a management practitioner, and then how did you get to starting an agri-tech startup?
Yeah, so my expertise is in rural marketing, and that has been something I did until I started CowTribe. I love rural marketing. It's something that people don't take so much notice, because I think most of the things that we experience in terms of marketing is around urban marketing. But when you're talking about rural marketing, it has to do a lot with, speaking with farmers, with people who hardly get what they want. And so that has been one area that I specialize in, and I spent a lot of time trying to be at best in rural marketing. But then when it was during this process of supporting the last company I worked with, it was during the process of helping them to get some innovation into the market. It was a crop insurance company. They distributed. They intended to distribute micro insurance for crops in Ghana, and I was recruited as one of the people to support with the product development and make sure that there's an adoption on the ground. And it was during this experience that I really got to understand the different needs of farmers and how it affected their lives. And livestock it just came out very clear that farmers lacked basic livestock services for their animals. And whoever is in insurance knows that insurance is about protecting kind of like, protecting you against certain risk, and if farmers have like assets like livestock and they cannot insure them because there are a lot of diseases that might kill them, no insurance company was willing to do that for them. And here I am, trying to figure out how to make sure that risk is not a burden for farmers any longer.
Okay, great. Thank you, Peter. And I think you have given us a very short video on Cow Tribe. I will request the backstage team to play the video so that we first see a little bit about what Cow Tribe is, and then we learn from you a little bit about the co-creation process. So I'll request the backend team to please play the video. We don't have the sound as we want, but yes, it still talks a little bit. We need a little bit more sound. I'm sorry, I think we are experiencing a little bit of a tech challenge because we are not able to hear the sound. So if there are any voiceovers or if there is any message like Peter is talking, so we will not be able to hear what is being said. So what I'm going to request the backend team is that if you can put this link into the discussion forum, because we are not able to hear anything. I'm sure even participants will not be able to hear anything. But yes, let me ask Peter a little bit about the story of Cow Tribe, why and how you founded it. We know you just introduced a little bit about what it does, but why and how you founded it. I know that, okay, you realized that microinsurance did not provide for livestock, but yes, how Cow Tribe is addressing that issue?
Yeah, so like I did mention, anybody from rural Ghana or anybody from rural Africa would have this experience. If you ask any farmer what they do, the summary of their pitch will be, I grow my crops to eat today, and I rear my animals for as a savings for tomorrow. That is what they will tell you. That is very, very powerful because, for smallholder farmers in Africa and so many other places, livestock rearing is something that they do as a form of saving. I mean, they don't have banks, they don't have other ways of saving their monies. So if a farmer harvests his crops and sells them, and he has excess income, the first thing he thinks about, if not to buy beer, is to go buy a chicken or a goat or a cow, and that's really, really important because that is the way they can keep that money until when it's another farming season. So that's cyclical, relationship between livestock keeping and farming the fields is what makes a smallholder farmer survive, all these years with, in poverty and all that. There has been a theory that by increasing livestock, counts, by helping farmers to increase the number of livestock that they have, would increase the amount of savings. It automatically puts money on their hands, in their hands. So it's that theory is what I believe in. And I knew that because, when I completed university, I got to work with a company. It was actually a funded project, a very big fund funded a project in that scenario of giving farmers access to animals to keep. So we went into almost 22 communities in the district that I work in, but there were like 10 other districts we work in. And in these communities, we selected farmers that we were poor. We gave them animals to keep in the hope that after several years, maybe 5 years after the project was 5 years project, after 5 years, we will see one cow multiplying into maybe 10 cows, and then 2 goats will be maybe 50 goats and even more, right? So that was the whole idea behind the project. And I was responsible, a young graduate from university with no experience, was asked to go and manage that project. And it was interesting because the first month in the project, I was on my motorbike driving through one of the communities when an old woman, started chasing my motorbike and like calling me, stop, come and look at something. And when I got to the house of the old woman, she sent me to the back of the backyard, and I saw this cow sitting in mud, excuse me to say, with sores all over the mouth. And the cow was looking at me. For the first time I could feel and I could appreciate that animals feel pain. When you are sick, you feel pain. It's the same for animals. They also feel pain. So I asked the old woman, what is wrong with this animal? Because I didn't even know the old woman was among those women we gave cattle to. And she said, well, when you gave us the 2 cows, one died and this one is sick, and I don't know what to do. So I said, well, just hold on, let me go find help. And it was when I got to the district that I realized a whole district of about 200,000 farmers had only one vet technician. And this was one person responsible for all the farmers. And this man was in a different district, a different community, attending to a larger farm, vaccinating them. And then I got them like, can you leave that and come and attend to this poor woman's cow, And it was difficult to convince him. But eventually when he came, he looked at me and said, Peter, you know what, this cow, I don't think there's anything we can do about it. The limbs are all sorry, there are sores everywhere. The cow cannot even get up. The only way I can help is to cut the limbs. But what is a cow without limbs anyway? So that was a very strong experience for me. As a young graduate, I didn't recover from that experience. For so many years, it's haunted me. The project was a failure because the animals kept dying. And the learnings for me at that time was, how on earth could we put like $6 million into a project and not think that, the animals that we are giving out needed, veterinary support. You needed to vaccinate them and all that. And we didn't anticipate, and the project was a big failure. 2 million, what do you call it, animals that were supposed to, we would have realized about 2 million additional stock was all a waste. So that's, fast forward to 2017, I was just selling my insurance and doing all that. And that same experience came back, because then I met farmers complaining about, why don't you insure? Why are you insuring our crops? I mean, why don't you insure our animals? They keep dying. And I'm like, how can insurance help you when your animal dies? And like, well, when it dies, I can get paid for losing the animal, it's mortality insurance. And I'm like, okay, let me go talk to my company and see what they can come out with, And I got to then my boss was outside the country, and I called him and like, look, there's a big opportunity here. We can insure animals too. And then his response was like, dude, that is not going to work. Go check the mortality rate and then come back and tell me what rate it was. And it was revealing when I realized that on annual basis, farmers were losing like close to 30% of their animals because they just don't have access to certain services. So I quit because I just couldn't stand, the whole thing, and I quit. And I dedicated my life to finding solutions to this big problem that farmers are facing. And here we are with CowTribe, the only private company in Ghana, and hopefully we can get to work in other places. We are the only company that is distributing livestock pharmaceuticals at the last mile of Ghana. We've built the most robust logistics system to be able to distribute anything from vaccines to dewormers to anything to farmers. We have a strong model because we use technology. We've invested in a platform that allows us to see every single thing that a farmer needs to keep his animals healthy. And we're able to run campaigns aggregating all the needs of these farmers. And we haven't missed a single campaign since we started. We've done over 150,000 deliveries since we started, working with over 34,000 farmers. And this is just within 2 years of our existence. I do think there's a strong model in what we do. And it's interesting we're talking about co-creation because that's a strong way to think about scalability and all those things. But this is the beginning. We really so focus on getting this model well. We've been running sprints. I know a lot of people probably listening are people who are also interested in starting businesses. We've literally done everything in bits and bits, incremental bits to understand what works and what doesn't work. And
correct. I can very sorry, I can very well understand that because you were graduate in management. You very rightly went to rural marketing and you unfolded a whole domain where there was no expertise, but you had to market something that was not even needed. So of course, I think that is the reality. A lot of people will understand that, yes, agriculture or agribusiness has realities that are unknown. There are domain expertise which is needed, which is unknown or may not be formally known. But yes, the process of co-creation, which is basically very important because that's the place where you have different stakeholders, you manage relationships with them. So it's going to be very interesting for us to learn from you because you learned by experience. You landed in a domain probably, or you landed in a sector by default. Thankfully, you come from that sector. You come from a family of animal rearers. But it'll be interesting for us to know from you, how have you approached creating shared value between cow tribe and other stakeholders in Ghana and globally in other places?
So co-creation is something that is it's an organic process. And it can also be intentional. It's an approach to how you solve problems. Just to mention that I'm someone who like to watch small things grow. And so co-creation is about identifying, number one, who is in your network that is interested in something that you do. And what can you also offer that person? It's like going to the market to buy tomatoes. You need to go with money and someone has to have tomatoes to give to you. A co-creation is just like that. It's a transaction that has to give value to both participants of the transaction. So shared value is shared value. I mean, both of you share something that is something unique, to have two people, two organizations want the same thing. We are social enterprise, and so our emphasis on shared, co-creation and sharing has been to see how we can scale what we do by collaborating with other people, because it is an understatement to say there is no problem that can be solved by one person. And I'm sure everybody who goes into entrepreneurship knows that there is no way you can ever scale to the level at which you want to go without involving other people. So that's the entire essence about shared value, that you need to recognize that other people share the problems, the interests, and you need to find ways to engage those people. So we've been doing that pretty well with the government of Ghana. Quite recently, we had a contract with the government of Ghana. And the first meeting we had was for us to give them our technology to be able to distribute vaccines. And then the minister said, wait a minute, how do we distribute vaccines if you don't know the counts of animals? I'm not giving you money to distribute vaccines until I know how many animals are in Ghana. So we ended up, having a contract to to electronically identify animals in the country, and then make sure that for the first time in the history of Ghana, all animals and farmers will have identity. I never saw myself doing this until when the minister insisted that you must do it as a requirement for these further conversations that we have to have about vaccinations. So here we are, a vaccine distribution company now doing animal identification, and what else can we do with other people? Last year in October, we had a contract again with Global Alliance for Veterinary Medicine, and they gave us $1 million and said, we want you to go beyond working with smallholder farmers to working with the agrovets, retailers in the market who are equally struggling to reach farmers, like the farmers you want to reach. We want you to collaborate with them to be able to distribute these things. You can't do it alone. And so for this year and the next 5 years, we're going to be focusing on,
yes,
working with these smallholder
farmers. In fact,
farmers.
very correct.
Yeah. So I do think there is so much to share, and it's in both the problem and in the solution.
Yes. I'm sorry, I kept interrupting. Sorry. So, yes. So it has been a process of discovery and discovery and discovery. And I think it has been a process of seeing that how many gaps existed. But Peter, you are one. You are a social entrepreneur. You have the vision. But I am sure you cannot do everything alone. You have your team. You have a leadership team at all levels. You have frontliners. You have leadership. So can you tell us how your team contributes in the process of co-creation, where they have shared values within the organization, and how they manage that with the external stakeholders?
Yeah, so like I did mention, everything starts from the very basic of it. I mean, from the minute level, which is at the team level, when we have, daily, weekly, interactions. It is guided by the fact that we don't know everything, and we don't know the best. We don't have the best solutions to the problems that we are trying to solve. So from the very word go, we had put discovery and learning at the center of what we do at CalTribe. And until we are sure that what we are doing would work for not just our team, but for every single person, our customers and our other stakeholders and partners, we would not do it. Let me give you an example.
How do you engage your team?
Yeah, so this is what the process of doing that is. We use tools like human-centered design, lean startup methodologies. These are quite proven models, and we run sprints. An example, I was just going to share an example of how we use these processes to be able to get like incremental improvements. Until last month, we have struggled to deliver vaccines to farmers, even though we were able to aggregate orders, bring the products, the vaccines to our shops closer to the places we are distributing. But anytime we got to the communities, we only met about 38% of the farmers. And then we ended up vaccinating like only 18% of animals. That was a very big gap in our model, because there is no way we could scale without knowing how to deliver the services to farmers who have paid us. Almost 50% of farmers were farmers who had paid us money, but anytime we arrived in the community, they weren't around. So the way we went about it was to start asking farmers what time in the day that they wanted us to come and deliver the vaccines to them. And we found out they wanted us to come in the night. They wanted the vaccines to be delivered in the night. And that was a big thing for us, because we had built our model to deliver services at day. And so we quickly tried to see if we can shift our delivery from day delivery to night delivery. And it was a strong thing, because now, just by changing the time of delivery from afternoon to evening deliveries, we increased from 18% to 85%. So that is what it means to be able to engage your internal team with customers that you work with, to be able to get better results and be able to improve on what you do. And so I do believe that there are a lot of tools out there, but it's also about practicing, and it's also about being intentional about how you do you build your model.
Great, thank you. Peter, we have a very amazing audience today, and there are some very interesting questions coming. So I'm going to take a few questions. We have Karim Wadiwala from Austria, and he asks, while co-creating a concept, how to align the goals and vision of a company, social sector organization, financial institutions, or government to achieve impact. So he's asking about impact. You bring them together, but how you achieve the impact?
Yeah, so that is aligning. Being able to align is the first thing in co-creation. You must. That is the first assignment. If you don't align, you never co-create. I mean, co-creation is like marriage. Okay, you need to first meet someone you like, and then you need to go out for dinner, or something. I don't know what people do in their various cultures, but there is a process, and at some point you need to align in values. You really need to align in values. And most often why co-creation doesn't work is because maybe values are not aligned at the same level. For instance, maybe one company is just feeding on the other person, like it's even more difficult when one has more power than the other. I mean, co-creation is not something, it's not a new concept. It's built on what we already know. If you have a bully in your class, there's no way you'll be attracted to that bully, So co-creation is a shared, it's a one-to-one mutual relationship. And most often in impact circles, you don't have that mutual, relationship properly built. Is it someone with money like microfinance trying to give that money out and make profit, and then there's another CSO sitting somewhere wanting to do advocacy, and then everybody has interest, but you can't sit down to think about what are the different values that you share. It's not about what you want, it's about one thing that you share in common, So you need to find that piece of thing that you share as a group trying to do something. Until then, there is no way, without that alignment, there's no way you can succeed in that co-creation. So that is the first step, making sure you align in terms of values.
Okay, thank you. Peter, are you able to hear me? I'm sorry, I'm experiencing some tech troubles. Okay, great. So Peter, I'm going to take another very interesting question, which is from Thomas Arnold. And he asks, what are the tips and main challenges when you're focusing on collaborations? So challenges that you face and how you solve them.
I think trust is an issue. Trust is a very big issue. And I learned it the hard way, When we started Car Tribe, I just believed every company were that transparent and was willing to share. Like they probably will come on TV or radio and say, we are looking for collaboration. And then you call them and like, hey, I'm here. I want us to do this. And we are not open to. And then I just realized people are less willing to collaborate because maybe they don't even have, the confidence that they can pull off partnerships and all that. So I do think that is a big struggle. And the other one I could say is, at your organizational level, you need to have space for partnership. People want to, and again, I'll use the marriage thing as a scenario, not because I know so much about marriage, but you can get married when you're living in your dad's house and sharing the bed with your sister or something. It's going to be more difficult. I mean, you want to get out, be independent. It's going to be really difficult for you to. So sometimes organizations say they want to have partnership, but they haven't built the right structure and systems in place to make that partnership work. It's a lot of investment that of your time, willing to put effort in making sure that the other partner understands what you are getting and what you are bringing. if you don't have those resources in terms of time and other things, don't even start it, because at the end of the day, you will not offer value and you will not get value and the whole thing. So those are two challenges I can think of, especially because the last one has been very difficult for us at the beginning of our company, where we didn't even have the structure for collaboration. So an example is, if a company comes and says, do you have a business plan? We want to know what is your strategy for the next 5 years. We want to align with it. And then you don't have it. Or you don't even have someone in charge of partnership. Then you cannot even, you are not everybody. So you, the CEO or the founder, cannot do everything. So that's one thing that those are two things that I think are two challenges in partnership and co-creation.
Right. I had a question where I wanted to ask you, like an innovator and solution provider in health and wellness space. You are looking for partnerships, and what are your priorities for future business for CowTribe? And then I'm also going to connect this question with a question from Karen Gold, who asks, how did you get connected with BI? And what project have you developed? So both are like, we just want to ask through an example. Can you give an example of a partnership, treating your BI as an example?
Yeah, so BI is an interesting example. Let me start from there. And it's interesting because we were part of the Making More Health Accelerator program. And BI has been very phenomenal in supporting entrepreneurs through that accelerator program. I visited BI office in Ingelham last year, and I was overwhelmed with how much they have created in the number of years that they have. I mean, with 50,000 employees and all that, it was so amazing. They were part of the co-creation, triangle that we had during the accelerator program. We had people come from BI to come and work with us for a couple of months. We still have weekly and bi-weekly meetings with BI employees. They are so excited about what we do, and we are excited about what they bring to the table, and it's just a continuous interest in each other. The problem with interacting with BI is that it's a big organization. It's like, with so many, and we are just a small, minute, partner out there. But I want to be sincere to say, we haven't felt overwhelmed by their size. They have been so phenomenal in helping to bring whatever they can, and also take what we have. Of course, some of their employees come and they don't want to go back because they feel so happy to be here. But to mention that there was a conversation I had with one of the employees, and so that you know the values of some of these partnerships. He walked to my office and I sat, and he said, I sat in the staff meeting and I just listened to all the problems that you guys are discussing. And I just realized that it's the same problems we are facing in our organization. And I'm like, no way. How could you be facing these problems? Because as an entrepreneur, I kept saying this thing will go over soon. This will be over soon. When we grow big, we will have this problem. And now you're telling me these are the same problems you are facing. Then where are we going? And then that is where the co-creation means. It gives you. It's kind of like crossing an island, and then crossing a river to an island, and you see people there, and it gives you a peep to you need to cross, but you don't want to make a mistake to get there and see that probably they are just Paris waiting to capture you, or lions there to eat you. You want to have a peep of what the island looks like without necessarily being there. And that is what that kind of co-creation with BI gives us. We are able to see how it feels to be as big as they are without necessarily being big yet. So that is a really strong experience that we have. We have a lot of other collaborations we are having with Care International. There are other organizations, they are charity-based organizations. They see our model, which is a more market-based oriented approach to the same problem they are trying to solve. And they want to learn from us. How do they do it the way we do it? And where they cannot do it, how do we collaborate to do it? Because of course people are getting to know it's not everything charity can solve, and I think these are strong collaborative opportunities that we are getting.
Yes, yes. And just to ask a little bit about what is the project that you're doing with BI?
Yes, so for the BI project, we've actually been thinking about solving the supply chain issues that we have in Cow Tribe.
Mm-hmm.
As when we started, we used to buy. So if people know our model very well, please watch the video because it explains a lot about what we do. When we started, we just wanted to focus on aggregating farmer orders, getting vets in the system to deliver those orders. Simple as that. We didn't want anything bigger than that. And then within a couple of months, we got to wait a minute. Where are the vets getting their product? What kind of products are they even selling? It's vaccines anyway. How do we ensure that? How are you sure that the vaccines are of good quality? That they are not just kept in. What about the cold chain? A whole lot of questions about supply chain. And then we started investigating and realized that number one, I remember walking into someone's. Going to the house of the vet who was responsible for a certain area. I'm like, can you show me where you keep your vaccines? And then he said, follow me. And then went to his kitchen, opened his kitchen fridge, and then showed me the vaccines there. And I was so disappointed. I'm like, why would you be keeping these vaccines with your vegetables and all those things? And that was a problem as big. You can imagine that the entire country, less than 1% of agrovets have fridges to keep vaccines. And so the problem with the supply chain affected everything that we do on the ground, because we can't tell the farmers they are receiving quality things when we can't control the products, the way the products come to them. So BI, the pilot we had with BI was to build fulfillment centers which can keep the vaccines and ensure that the cold chain is properly handled, so that we don't have to bother about farmers receiving poor products. And fortunately, we have the fulfillment system set up in a way that we can buy from manufacturers directly, manage the cold chain. I mean, temperature, minute by minute temperature reading of everything, get it into our fridges, and then keep the temperature monitoring the same way, get it to our regional warehouses in the same way, within the, and then even to the last farmer, until the farmer receives the product, we manage everything. And more powerfully, we can show the farmer the journey of the product all the way from the manufacturer to us. And that has been a strong thing. No one else is doing it. In veterinary in Africa, the way we are doing it, just like measuring the micro, temperature at micro level, people are doing different things. Even you can think of human medicine, human vaccines. It is not done this way. No one can trace, they can't even trace the vaccines beyond their shop, So that is something we've invested with BI support, and it's increased our capacity dramatically. Now we can serve so many farmers because we have more vaccines in our fulfillment centers, and we have the technology to be able to track these things. Fortunately, we have another scaling up project with BI in the coming months. They just renewed their interest in us with additional funds. So we will be doing more things with them, expanding with more fulfillment centers across the country, bringing more products and all that. So this is really, really like an exciting journey for us.
Great, great. Just because you were talking about so many things you're going to do in future, I quickly want to also ask you, what are the future priorities of your business of Proud Tribe?
Personally, I want to retire quite quickly and then rest because are we not done? I mean, we should be done by now, I'm sure. But well, the problem still exists. We still have a very big problem to solve. Almost 200 million farmers in Africa do not have access to the services we provide. And providing to 34,000 farmers is just a scratch of the problem. And you can sleep until you feel you have done enough to be able to make people's lives better. So in terms of future focus, we really want to expand, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we are expanding a model that is workable in every situation. And even if it's not replicable the way it is now, we should find a way to replicate it wherever the situation is. And that is a very difficult work to do. So I can say for the next 12 months, we will definitely not going out of Ghana. But by 2021, we have an interest to go to Nigeria. So if there's anybody, joining from Nigeria, you will see Car Tribe brand in Nigeria in 2021. We want to go to Mali. We want to go to Burkina Faso. I mean, a lot of companies are calling us to come and then collaborate. So it's exciting. But again, our main focus is on number one, building our model to make sure it works. Number two, make sure we have the right team in place to run this company. Everything shouldn't hover around me. There must be people, even when I go for my vacation, as I'm hoping I can do. It should still run as a company. For now, I'm not sure if everything can go without myself and my co-founder. So those are two key things. Let me say three. And finally, the finances. We need to raise funding. I know this is not part of the conversation for now, but just to mention that scalability is also about being able to attract funding. And thankfully, we are in that transition period where we are moving from being a startup to a more established company, and people are expressing interest in the scalability of our model. But we need to be able to get the right resources in place to drive that scale. If you ask me for impact, I hope, and my dream is that in 5 years' time, if everything goes well, and we have about 2 million farmers accessing services because Car Tribe existed, I think I will sleep, and I'll sleep soundly.
That's a great goal and a very difficult goal. And actually, it brings me to a question that I had for you. And we also have somebody from the audience, Fernanda Becerril. She also asks the same question. How do you maintain positive attitude when you are facing difficult time? I wanted to ask, what is your motivation? Yes.
I wish I had an answer to this question because look, it's something that I feel should come natural, because I don't know how that can be learned. Like, it's something that you need to have. But this is something that I really want to say, that entrepreneurship is not an individual journey. As much as you are looking for finance people, HR people, whatever, to help you with the business side, you shouldn't go into this as a lone ranger. I think you need to associate with people who would encourage you when you are down. Like, there are down moments throughout. And, let me mention that at the beginning of your journey, the first thing you get worried about is like customers and money. How am I going to get investment? I don't have money. You complain, but then more money, more troubles, because then you have sleepless nights and you need to be able to spend the money wisely. So there have never been an end to problems, and it's definitely going to have an effect on yourself. So that stress that you go through sometimes also reflects in the way you react in business meetings, the way you take people's feedback and all that. So it's kind of like a ball of problems. I keep telling people that entrepreneurship is like just falling off the cliff without knowing which kind of floor you'll be landing, whether it's going to be water or a bare ground or whatever. So you definitely need someone on the ground there to at least just hold your back, and that person must be someone that can always come around. It doesn't necessarily have to be interested in your business, but she understand why you are passionate about what you do. That is a powerful way of keeping your composure, making sure that you constantly. There are so many times that I felt like giving up, but I just feel like those other people looking up to me want me to succeed. And that is a very strong way of keeping myself going. Fortunately, I have a co-founder, and she's just like the most supportive person that you can find around. when I'm giving up, she's there. When she's feeling like giving up, I'm there. So that makes that complementary, those who don't have, I mean, fine, it could be your spouse, it could be your closest friend. Just get people around you. Don't think you can do it alone.
Okay, that's great. Like giving up, and imagine you have a failure. How do you deal with failure? So this is a question that Christine Lindemann from BI Germany, she asked, how do you deal with failure?
Incentivize yourself to deal with failure. I mean, failure is not nice. Failure is not interesting. Yes. Failure is our weakness. It's our biggest weakness. And fear of failure is even more bigger. So, correct. As an entrepreneur, you need to teach yourself not to fear failure. Like, it's something you can teach yourself, that you can learn. And it actually, it's something that comes when you continue to grow. The first moments of failure makes you feel very awkward, but then as you continue to incentivize yourself to accept it, you become better at it. Mm-hmm. So, just building on what I said earlier, people, it depends on the way you go about failure. For me, our company, we incentivize ourselves to fail, or not to incentivize ourselves to accept failure. Because, for instance, number one, if you want to do something new, most failures come from, most failure come from doing things that we don't know so much. They are like working in gray areas and you're not sure of your success and all that. And so when you are moving into something new, the chances of failure is high. You need to give yourself the option that it will fail. Don't take failure out of something new. So in our team, we accept it when there is a marketing strategy, implemented and it didn't work out. Because even in the design itself, we would ask ourselves, how likely is it that we would fail? And even when we succeed, we celebrate because we succeeded, but we also check about how likely would it have been that we have failed. And then we also learn from that. We look at why did we fail? An example is last month we realized that in communities where there are low signups, the idea was go and educate them more about the services, do the marketing, they will sign up. And then after investing all that last month, we just got only 10%, is around 11% increase in our signups. So abysmal. But the learning from that was that it would take 2 to 3 years, continuous education, because this should be part of our business model, to educate farmers, not just one day of a session with farmers. You need to build that relationship with them. You need to come back over and over with something new and all that. So we learned a lesson from the failure of another thing. You need to be ready to do that. And so we keep joking in our office that maybe one day we will write our failure report. And I think that is something that we keep telling ourselves, that don't be afraid of failure. You can never succeed until you fail.
That is I think that is the need of the hour, because nobody publishes any failure report, but all the learnings come from failures. But Peter, you'll be amazed. We had more than 70 questions, but I'm going to take the last one from the audience in interest of time. And this comes from Sarah, and she asks, what are the pros and cons of working with corporate partners? What did you learn from them, and what did you teach them?
Number one, corporate partners are like lions. Be sure that they know what they're about when they come around being friendly. I mean, just know the lions. They have superior, knowledge of the market. They have everything. You are the naive guy in the market. Don't get so excited when they throw things at you. You need to also stand your grounds. And I'm saying that because there were partnership meetings. I remember having sessions with in certain conferences, and then some of the big partners have been eyeing them, like come to me and like, can we talk, and we go over meetings and all that, and I'm like, this is so exciting. And then 2-3 months down the line, I realized that they are just looking for another way to make money, So that kind of feeling that there is mutual, interest in growing each other is not, I'm not saying it's all the instances, it's just based on my own experience that corporate partners have better understanding of market and what they want versus, small businesses. So you need to really ask good questions. You need to go knowing what you want. And if you don't rush into making decisions and committing and all that, because at the end of the day, you are the smaller one in the room. But all the same, and this is an experience from just like having talking to people about these same problems. You just imagine that it's an investment, right? Corporate partnership is like an investment. And the corporate partner is the investor and you are the investee. Most often, just imagine it that way. And sometimes the investor is the one asking you the questions and like, show me your books. But you can also ask the investor, show me your books, tell me how many investments you've done in the past 6 months or so, which other company. Try to talk to other people about these investors. It's the same. Try to talk to people about this. Check out their stories. Let other people that they said they have worked with, go talk to those people and ask them what their experience has been. And that is the shortest way to knowing how to work with corporate partners.
I think I'm going to say that enjoy the lion, but be careful when you are playing with the lions, right? Okay. Okay. So how do you manage risks as an entrepreneur, and how do you keep that agile approach in your company culture while forging partnerships with large organizations? You've answered a bit, but like, do you have more tips?
So
other than being careful and sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so risk management is a critical part of business. And I think most businesses fail because they just fail to anticipate risk in a more in a good way. Like and it's sad because when you are good with anticipating risks and handling them well, you stay longer in business. I think business risk could range from what is happening now, the pandemic. I know a lot of people are scared, but you need to anticipate these things and prepare for them. Even if you know you can't do anything about it, it's just good to write it somewhere.
Yes.
Recognize that it exists, and then know that in future when you are capable of handling it, you can do it. But just closing your eyes to risk is a very dangerous thing. So this is what we've been doing. So for each thing that we do, we have what we call a risk register. And we just keep that for the purpose of it, because anytime that we fail, we try to know why we failed and what we can do about it. The other thing about risk is that it evolves, it grows. Some aspects of business that might be a minute issue could become a bigger issue when you are growing. An example is when we started working in Ghana. As a young company, nobody cared about us. But when we started really like hitting the market and being successful, the veterinary community, and I'm saying this knowing that they won't forgive me, the veterinary community in Ghana started, coming at us and, calling us, all names and saying we are not qualified to do what we are doing. And that there is no law that binds, that allows us to do as a private company to deliver vaccines and a whole lot of things. And for 6 months, we were just like going back and forth with the authorities. Unfortunately, now we have all the licenses and clarity to be able to do our work. But this was something we didn't anticipate at the beginning. We felt it was going to be an issue, but we didn't know it was going to keep us out of business for like 6 months. So this is something that you need to know, that risks sometimes can grow and it can hurt you when it grows bigger. And also knowing that you need to be able to explore and see how you can prepare yourself for that. Yeah, just around that. I don't know if I answered that question.
Yes, very well,
Yeah.
very well, very well. Sadly, we are coming to the end of this great session. I had 100 more questions, but unfortunately, we don't have the time. But one last question before we sign off to you is: what are some of the greatest lessons that you have learned in
Oh
creating
my.
partnerships? And any final words for our learners from you?
So in terms of partnerships, like I do think that there is no way you can grow. I just realized that we grew so fast because people were willing to work with us. And so what I've learned is that you need to be transparent. Don't go into partnership closing the doors to partnership. You know, some people are not willing to let people know their problems, not to talk of like how they do things and what challenges they face and all that. We've been very, very transparent about these things. Like we have monthly, emails we send out to our partners, whether they talk with us or not, we still send them anyways to them. And just part of it just is reserved to some of the challenges we are facing and things that we are fielding, and telling them our books, how our revenue is, and then what we are spending our money on. That kind of transparency is really, it has taught us that transparency buys a lot of goodwill. And so we want to continue doing that. We are not afraid to continue sharing our experiences and all that. Second thing that I could share about our learnings is the fact that it takes longer to cultivate certain partnerships. So don't go to the first meeting and expect everything to start and end there. I think some partnership took us like 1 year of conversation and back and forth, and sometimes we thought it was dead and then it came back again. So just make room for time for it to take time, especially if they are bigger corporate organizations. Then, it's even more difficult with startups. Startups are very, very, like startup partnerships don't exist. Like we've tried to partner with other startups and it hasn't worked. What else can I share about partnership? The value of it is also, the value of partnership is based on how you manage it. So in some instances, you get a good partner, you start working, and then down the line, the management didn't really go well, and then the partner gets unhappy. Last lesson about it: partners, people talk to people. Okay, so if you have a great partner, they talk about you because you become part of them. And so in meetings with other partners, they talked about, and Tribe. And I've heard that. I mean, yesterday I had a call with someone. It's like, I keep talking about it. It's like, can we start our partnership? I think we've not been talking for 6 months now. Can we start talking again? Because yesterday I started talking about Tribe, and then I felt bad because I know we haven't spoken for a while. So I want us to. So that kind of goodwill is something that can help your company. It's the same if it's a bad thing. Imagine you didn't do well when they go sit in a meeting. It's the same way. Oh, don't ever think about these guys. They are just like this, like that. So you really need to put your best foot forward, but you also need to maintain that credibility when you are dealing with partners, because you are extending by sharing each other's values and vision and everything. You are also taking the liabilities of it. So you need to be wary of that. Last words for, should I start with entrepreneurs? Like, I keep saying this, there's no way you can do something without anticipating that it's going to take a while to get off the ground. There are certain problems that are too big for one person to solve. You need collaboration with other people to be able to succeed. Don't be afraid to fail. Because failure in itself has learnings to help you even do better. Invest in personal growth. There is no way you can give something you don't have. And so if you want to be a great CEO, you need to learn to be a great CEO. Like you just have to continuously learn. improve yourself as an entrepreneur. It might mean going back to school. It might mean having a mentor. It might mean getting an advisor and all. Just keep improving yourself, because your staff are going to depend on you, and you need to give them the best. Then finally, time is short, and even worse, we don't know how to measure it. So
Yes.
just make sure when you are doing something, don't say, "Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it." It's just not. Time is really short. Before you realize you are 60 years and you like
Yes.
I'm not saying 60 years is like, yeah, but you've retired, you know. So that is something that I want to leave with everybody. And just to say thank you for listening.
Thank you, Peter. So many secrets, so many things that we already knew, but I think we knew it, but we never thought that we can openly talk about it, about failures, about risk management, about transparencies, the way you did. So it was incredible. Thank you very much. And before we sign off, just a reminder, please don't forget to take the survey, because you get extra points to watch us live. Next week, we are going to meet 2 times on 21st of May, where I will be your host for office hours. And I'll also see you for the fifth webinar on 19th May, 8 a.m. EST with Mark Sheng. And we will continue our discussion on co-creation, this time about idea development and pitching. Until we meet again, thank you very much and have a great time, everyone.